that. All right, so shout out if you get a message from me. Okay, so here is the agenda, and it really is designed for people who've used Excel but just want to learn a little bit more, use some of the formulas that they may not be across, and probably just show you some tips and techniques to make your life a little bit more efficient. So I'll start going through, and if you've got any questions, ping me on the link session and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'll send out this workbook after the session. So all the formulas are there, so you don't need to write anything down. There's actually some homework in there. So for those who are going to come along to Excel 102, you need to do the homework beforehand. And each of the courses is actually built on each of the things. So if you actually don't understand anything, please let me know now, because you're not going to understand the next thing later on. Okay, so far so good. The book is designed with internal links. So if you click on that, it goes to the next tab down the page. If you don't know how to do that, you go Insert and Hyperlink. And from in here, you can actually go and grab another part of the document. So you can see here's cell ref. So if I scroll up to cell ref and change that and press OK, now this is going to go and open up cell ref. Okay, so that's how you can do that. Quite a good way of creating a workbook, especially if you've got lots of tabs and you want to drive people around the place. And here are my details. You'll see in the workbook itself where I put in some instructions. I use pipe as I go into the next thing. So if I go review and then go here, you'll say review in that. And the other thing is you'll see all the way through the display of a formula. That's actually using a internal macro called get formula, and it's really just to show you what it's doing. So rather than me having to click on it every time, it's to show you the formula. But the formula is actually not there. You can see from here the formula is actually over here. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's get into it. Oops, I've moved the agenda. Okay, so menus. A couple of quick things on the menus that you may not normally use. First question. Not yet, Ben. I'll send it out afterwards. So we have a formula, and we all know that we start with a formula as with equals. I'm hoping if you don't know, you can actually start a formula with a plus, which is handy for those who were brought up with Lotus 1, 2, 3, which is why it's there. But it's also very handy if you've actually got a numbered keypad, because the plus on the numbered keypad is actually much bigger than the equals. So you can just go +1, +2, and it comes up like that. So if we copy the formula, you can say home, you can say, what can I say with that? You can say copy, so Control C, yeah, paste, special, you can see here are all the different paste specials. This is them in words. So values is pretty simple. It just copies the values straight over, right? Most of you would have seen that. Transpose, if you've got a lot of rows, you can turn them into columns. Copy, paste special, transpose, which is down here. And that turns them into, yeah, a transposition of a column to a row. If you have text, and this is a classic example of a staff number, it comes through as a text. You can tell it comes through as a text because it's got a little apostrophe beforehand. And you might have a whole stack of those if you've imported a sheet of, some text type numbers. To turn those into numbers, you can see that often it comes up with a little thing here that says this is formatted at that and you want to convert it to a number. So you can do that and it will turn it into a number straight away. Otherwise, if you've got a whole row of them, that's a little bit laborious because you've got to do those one by one. So what you can do is you can go in any cell, type in 1. Now, if you copy 1 and you highlight your row, you can then say paste, paste special, multiply. And if you multiply a number by 1, it's itself. And if you multiply a text number by number 1, they all become numbers. Okay, learn something new? Worthwhile coming? Excellent.
Yeah, but why?
The trick is you have to learn something new each page, and we know. Someone's pinned.
Didn't know that, but it's
Yay.
weird. It's like, why?
Excellent. So far so good. See, we've only gone into the first three things. You've really got something new. View. So here, if you want to, and good for presenting, if you want to zoom, you go View. You can zoom to selection, and you can see it's just zoomed into that particular selection. So if you've got really bad eyes, you can zoom into that selection there, right?
Take note.
Otherwise, we can zoom back. You can also create a custom view. So if you are always flicking backwards and forwards between a sheet and a particular part of a sheet, which might be buried over in ZB and something else, you can actually go and create a custom view. So here in custom view, I've gone and created a custom view called just the top, and it is now just showing me that little bit there. You could go over here. Let's go and create this as a custom view. Add. So now I'm over here and I can go to my custom views and I can go to formula and show, and it will take me there. Okay, so a nice way to zoom around a really complex, difficult workbook.
So it's not creating another worksheet.
No, it's just
you're just sort of
zooming it, tag into that space. So if you've got assumptions, for example, so really good practice if you're building up a complex model is to put your assumptions on the front page and then link to those assumptions. So GST is, we always say it's always 10%, but it might change. We used to say superannuation was 9%, but it's now 9.5. So if super is in your front page and you call it super and you call it a cell with 9, you could just have a custom view called super, and if you need to go back to it each time, you can just go that way. Okay. So there's something new. Split. So this is actually just changed recently with this version. It used to just have the little dividers to change the plane. You now actually have to click on split. And now you've got them, right? And then you can drag those around. And that way, the purpose of those is that if you want to keep your top row, you can now scroll just the top row, and now you can scroll down below and you can keep the headers that way. If you want to freeze those, you can freeze them as is, or you can just freeze the first row or freeze the first column. So useful for if you're scrolling through lots of data set.
This is like the same as spreading the document in the Word.
Yep, exactly the same. Okay. And finally, Format Painter. If you've gone to the effort of formatting a particular cell in a particular way that you happen to like, and we can do that by changing its color and changing its text color and adding in a comma, and that's too wide, so I double click here. Maybe I only want one cell, and that is what I really like, and I like it all the time. I can go over to here and I can click on my little Format Painter, and I can apply that to there. Now you can see it's gone back to normal. If you double click on your Format Painter, then you can go and click around wherever you like. Very good. And as I say here, help is your friend, and I've put in a whole lot of helps to all those type of things. All good?
So the double click
just means that you can put it in different things. And to get out of it, you press escape.
So it's a kind of a multiple selection if
Yeah.
you want to do it.
Correct.
You don't have to go back again and again and change the format.
Exactly right. Any questions online? No? Okay, moving on. Basic formulas. So we use our arithmetic formulas, yes? So plus is plus, minus is minus, star is times, and slash is divide. Yep, so far so good. And that returns a real value. Okay, and it uses the old rules that we had in, I know, was it year 4, year 3. The times and divide is before plus and minus, right? So 1 plus 2, is that what it is? 1 plus 2 times 3 is actually 2 times 3 plus 1, right, without the brackets. Okay, all good? And so if you, so that's, you do that, you get those. We have comparisons as well. So greater than, less than, greater and equals to, less than equals to, and not equal to. Yep. And so 1 is greater than 2 returns a false. So that always returns true or false. 1 is less than 2 is true. 1 is equal to 2 is false. 1 is greater than equal to 2 is false. 1 is equal less than 2 is true. And 1 is not equal to 2 is true. Okay? So true or false. There's some text you can do, so you can concatenate. So if I concatenate D2 and E2 using the ampersand, it literally just brings those two together and mashes them together. You can also concatenate text and numbers. So concatenating text and number 2 gives you D2. That can then be used with the function called indirect, and then you can indirectly use D2. Yep, so you then would look up the value of D2. Question from the floor. Is there a way to auto include a space when concatenating? Not auto, but what you can then do is you'd have to basically say that, yeah, and that's how you get that. Okay. Right, so here I've got my first name, here I've got my surname, down here I've done exactly that, so dear space, first name space and surname, and I get dear retitle. Okay, so far so good? Anything new? Yeah, cool, all right. To determine formulas, you can either click on the formula, you can see it up there. If you click on F2, let me actually click on F2 here. A couple of things come up. Firstly, the formula comes in line, so you can edit it in line rather than going up to there. It also shows you by reference of color those cells, right? So the red one is the red one and the blue one is the red blue one, right? Kind of useful for auditing and that sort of stuff. You can also click on the function up here, and then there's a whole lot of formulas in there. They're categorized by type. All is all, alphabetical. Otherwise, you might want a text one, or the financial ones, etc., etc. Again, help is your function, because if it pops up help here, online it will actually give you the description of the sex and all the rest of it. So very useful. And they've made out a whole lot better in the last version of thing. The other benefit of that is if we actually use this and we type in sum, just because it's an easy one, it will then help you out, right? So it will help you during the function. So if I sum number and sum another number, it starts to add it up for you. I can then go and click on another cell over here, and it builds it up for you, right? So it actually helps you through the function, and then it puts it in there for you. Okay. Formulas editing. So formulas, here are all those in the same place. Tracing dependence and precedence. So this will actually show you where it's come from. So it will say that this is coming from there. And if I click on here and I say what's my dependence, it will show you that that is dependent on that. So if you're breaking things, it helps you find if I'm going to change this, is it going to screw it up. Remove all the arrows there. And if you want to evaluate the formula, you can come over to here and evaluate it, and it will step you through it. So here it's evaluated the formula, it's summing up those two, it's then summing those together, and off you go. So again, useful for if you can't work out why it's misbehaving. Okay. All good? Excellent. If I'm going too fast, shout or ping. Name ranges. So this is a very underutilized, in my experience, functionality that can save you hours. It can save you hours just merely for debugging stuff. Because when you start to get complex formulas, and when you've got a sort of a nested if, and it kind of says nested, if D3 equals this, and then D7 that, and then all of a sudden you go into, you know, AAB this and AAB that. You go, what the hell is going on here, right? So named ranges help you out with that. So I've designed this so that you can follow it later on. As it says, number 1, click on the name box. As you can see, I've done this before, and there's already some existing name ranges there. So let's pick on one, price. Price has highlighted this range here, and this range here, as it says, is defined as price, and it's called price. If I highlight this range, it comes up as time. So I can do a range, or I can do an individual cell. This one's called cost. Okay, so for the time being, they're the ones that I've ranged on here. Because cost is a single cell, I can put a single cell in anywhere, and I can say this equals cost. Now you can see it's come up with a little label, which highlights to you that it's actually a named range. And that is going to show the value 9. Because over here, it's 9. If I change that to 8, okay, it's the same as saying this is equal to C9. Okay, same thing, but it's now got a value. Okay, makes sense? Dealing in ranges, it has to be relative. So if I come over here and I type in equals to time, I'm going to get the relative range of time, in which case I'm going to get the value of, anyone? 2, correct. Because I'm in that, right? I'm in the row, the second row of my range time. If I type,
if you put in time and you're sitting in M9?
If I'm sitting in M9 and I type in time, then I get
value.
Because it doesn't understand it. Okay?
So there's got to be some relation
To the, yeah. Is the relatives the same row? Okay? This
Or
is
column.
or column if you're doing it that way, correct. So here's price, and here's price. Okay? Now that's an important concept for later on, because we do lots of things with ranges, and if you've got a miscued range, it doesn't work. So it's all, ranges are very important and relative. Now, why would you want to do that? So if I was to say, okay, this particular matrix is this times this times this, I could have said that equals, you know, that cell, well, in fact I have now, that cell times that cell times that cell, and I get my 88. Or as you can see here, I've just typed in cost times price times time, and I've actually done that for that whole thing, and it just knows relatively I'm timesing that by that by that. Okay? Make sense? All good? If it makes sense, that's helpful, because we're going to use that in the next page. All good on here? Online? Excellent. So, yep, over here. So, the other thing that we know is that normally we reference a cell by, you know, B1, B2, B3, right? So let's just do this here. This equals that plus that plus that. Yep. If we want to use that for the next one down, we can just copy it down, right? So we can just fill that down to the next one. For those that didn't know, we can also go highlight those three things and Control D for down, and it fills down your things, and Control R for right. So if I'm here and I go here, I go Control right, it's going to fill it to the right. So that's a good shortcut for filling down a formula. So that all makes sense, yep? So over here we've calculated the GST is this times be 8, which is our GST rate. Okay? When I fill this down, I get an error, right? Because that's gone relatively, it's down to there, and I've gone down to here, and it's gone down to there. Yep, so no good. So the connotations that we use is the $sign to lock in a relative cell. Yeah? So if I don't want to move down the row, I lock in my row number. And I lock in my row number by typing in $1 beforehand. Okay, so now if I lock that in, that all works. I can lock in my column by putting $1 in front of the column. So I can do that. And now if I go to the right, see that it's still B8 even though the left-hand side is moving from F. And if I'm lazy, I can click on here and type in F4 and it cycles through them. Okay? So if you're not very good with the shift key, you can just do F4. So far so good. Now, you asked for the practical example about why I do it. Instead of typing in that, because now I'm going to go, okay, what's my E5? Might hear that, and what's that over here? So let's go and call this GST rate. So now I can say GST equals that times GST rate. All of a sudden that formula is starting to make a bit more sense to me. Yeah? Now I can just copy that down. I don't even
Because you said so.
because I've set this cell to GST rate. Yeah? Make sense? So, and that's, so here I've done it here, and here's an example by locking it in right. Here I've now got what happens if my GST, moves to the right. I haven't locked in D, so that's now pointing relative to there, and that's pointing relative to there, and that's pointing relative to there.
How do you assign the tag to the names of variables?
Up here. So here,
Like for example,
if I here, so I can type in here and I can say GST 11%. I can't use a percent. GST 11. That's probably not because there's actually full GST. So go back to a better rate might be G underscore S underscore T. Yep, so now I can type in that equals that. And if we're really good, we'd actually go and create this table, or even call this one here. We've got one called sales total. So if I have a look and find my sales total, that's this one here. So sales total by GST rate, and I know it's going to be relative all the way through. Okay? All good? Make sense? And later on you'll see we'll use this later on. Okay. Some simple math functions that you may or may not know about. Hopefully you all know sum by now. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Average. Average is the...
Mm-hmm.
What's the formula for average? The sum of, by the count. Yep, by the end of the count. Okay, so that's the average. Median. Middle value. So very useful for forgetting about retail sales. Let's call this property sales. Yeah, in New South Wales, you might have one that this makes sense because it's kind of close. But here you can see the ACT you might buy a house for $10. In New South Wales, it's that, and in Victoria for that. The average is $3 million, but the median is actually the middle one. Okay, so quite a different number. Count. So count counts up numbers. So here you can see the count of these numbers is 2. If you want to count out all of the values, you need to use count A. Why is that useful? If my son is going to invite 4 kids to the party and we write down their names, we need to know all the names. We need to type in count A, like we've got here. Because if he was silly and just said, Dad, we're going to count out how many people coming to my party, we wouldn't be inviting anybody. Okay? So count doesn't count text.
Party.
Useful if you're counting up how many, I don't know, employees you've got, and you've got, yeah, and you're adding up the numbers. All right? So some simple ones there. Quick calcs. So if I click these ones here, you can see down below, and it's only down below, it's actually down here, that there's a number of quick calcs down the bottom. So this is the sum, which is the sum here. We've counted up 3 of them. The numerical count's also 3, minimum, maximum, average. You can change that by right-clicking down here, and here you can see, you can turn them on and turn them off. Okay? So if you're looking for a quick calc, much easier to do that way. Okay? All good? Moving on. If. The old logical if. Okay, let me just make this view normal and zoom over here. Sorry, the resolution isn't particularly good given I'm projecting on the big screen. So, the if function. The if function basically works this way. I'm confused. The first thing we're doing is testing for a logical. So logical is true or false. So is something true or false? If it is true, then do something. Otherwise, it's false, do something else. Okay? It's relatively simple as that. So, if I wanted to say, if that, which was ACT in 2007, is greater than 2006, it's already coming up as true. We can say, yippee, bonus time. Otherwise, oh no. Yep. We press OK. We have bonuses. If we change this to be 10, we now have pink slip. Okay? That is the basic construct of if. You can then get much more complicated because you can do nested ifs. You can also get much more complicated with your rules and that sort of stuff. So here's an example. And this particular example I've used because a lot of people do lots of management reports month in, month out with some commentary. And they kind of go, oh, did we have bigger sales, yes or no, and all the rest of it. So here, you know, you can simply do some commentary within the if statement. So here, if you have a look, if that was a C8, which is over here, was less than D8, there was growth in the sale from last year to this year. Otherwise, there was no growth from last year to this year. Now, it says last year, this year, but it actually shows the years because, why? We've gone and called that one, we've called it somewhere. Where's last year? This year? Oh, there you go. This year and last year. I must have called it a couple of times. Right, so that way each year you can just move it over without having to type in 2007, 2008. You can also do some calculations. So you can actually be a bit more specific. You can say sales fell by. So let's go and put in some bigger numbers. 64%. So now there was actually growth by that, right? So what does that look like? There was growth. We've used the ampersand, which is the concatenation that we had for text before. Round is a very simple function which rounds up your numbers. So it asks for a number, and it asks you how many digits you want to round to. Right? In this case, I then times it by 100. I could have rounded to 0 for that matter. And added in a percentage sign. So it says the percentage sign from last year to this year. Otherwise, sales fell by that. Right? So you can actually create quite a bit, can create a whole storyboard just based on your numbers. And then refresh each year.
That would be quite interesting with the table reporting of the government management.
Yep.
So that you can actually rather manage your items.
Correct. It's just done it. Okay, makes sense? Right. Sum if. So here's our little example. We've got warehouse sales, retail sales, and consulting sales in 3 different states across 2 different years. So if I wanted to know how much sales in total there was for ACT, I could do it the traditional way, which I see so often, which is that equals that. Oops. Yeah, plus that, plus that. Who does it that way? A couple of hands down up here, right? So that'll make sense if you've got a few of them. We have 45,000 employees, and I used to run REM services. And if someone said, can you tell me the sum of salaries for females versus males, I can tell you, you wouldn't be going that plus that plus that plus that, right? So we introduce sum if. So sum if takes the parameters of a range and a criteria and an optional different sum range. So what that means is, firstly, the criteria that I'm going to test, and am I going to sum up a different range or not? So in this particular example, I would say, and we can use our little friend function. So specify the condition, the range that you want to evaluate. So I want to evaluate this range. What's the criteria I want to evaluate? Now I could just type in here ACT, or I could just go and click on ACT, same thing. And what do I want to sum? I want to sum that range. Oops. That's my criteria, and that's my sum range. And it comes up with the same value as we had before. Okay. Now what it's actually doing is it's essentially saying, here in my blue range, am I ACT? If so, add that. Am I ACT? Am I ACT? Yes, add that. Am I ACT? Am I ACT? Add that. Okay. Remember we talked about ranges being important and being in sync. If I have that, for example, I'm going to get absolutely nothing, because what it's trying to do, it's got its range misaligned, and it's not understanding it. Okay. In fact, what it's actually doing is it's saying, I'm in the first row of this range. Sum the first row. It's actually that one. I'm in this one. Sum up that one and sum up that one. Right. If I did it the other way around, you'd actually get the completely wrong answer, because it's actually adding up that one and that one and that one. So really important to get your ranges in sync. Make sense? All good? Okay. Down below is an example with a nested if. So this is a nested if, which basically says if it's less than 100,000, yes.
What if want to do perform any other operation, like not just multiplication?
Good you ask. We'll get into that in just a second. Here's a nested one. So I just wanted to show you what a nested one looks like. This one says if your salary is less than $1 million, if that's true, then sum up the combined salary, and if that is greater than 100,000, then do something. Otherwise, it's less than that, ask for a pay rise. And if it is greater than $1 million, then do something else. So let's see what happens. If $2 million, then the first thing was false. It misses all of that, and it says given your base salary must be moonlighting from Macquarie Bank. If I've only got $1,000 and the combined is 30, then ask for a pay rise. If, however, you get a big bonus, then you can pay me something. Okay, so that's a nested if. Now, my only counsel to you for a nested if is they can get very complicated very quickly. The best thing to do is kind of scribble them out on a piece of paper, work out your kind of decision tree, and make sure that you're not getting lost, because often you can get very, very lost. Importantly, what you do need to note is that you need to close out your brackets. Now, when you go in here, you can see, and it's probably a bit hard to see on the screen, but that bracket there has gone bold, right? And all of a sudden, you can see over here, it's going bold. And that's pairing up those brackets so that you can see where those brackets are pairing up. This one here is pairing up there, and this one here is pairing up there. So you always need to have your paired brackets. And if you don't, generally Excel tells you and asks you to fix it. So here's your exercise that you guys can play with at home, which is how do I write the formula to highlight which states achieved management targets of growth of more than 15%. Okay, so here it's more than 15%, here it's less than, here it's less than, but overall we achieved. So how do I get that formula copied down? And once you've cracked that one, here's the formula to write how much Victoria sold in 2 years. So the answer's there, right? You need to come up with a formula to come up with that answer. So I'll send those over to you. And in answer to the question of how do we get some more complicated ifs, here is a pile of them. So where the sales is January, where the count is just January, where it's not equal to January, where it's January or February, where it's that and that and that and that, they're all in there for you to try and play with. Okay? Right. Any questions on the floor, on the phone? All good? You guys can still hear me clearly? Great, thanks Cameron. Oh, there was a question. Ah, cool, all right, thanks Jenny. All right, dates.
Sorry, before we move forward, just one quick question. You've explained us the nested ifs. And what I was wondering, like, there's a, what if I wanted to compare one value multiple times? So it's a kind of a switch statement. So basically what happens when you have one value and you want to compare that value in 3 or 4 different. So
we say here's our value 10, and we're going to compare it to 12, to 9, and to 20.
And
type
then,
thing.
I go into the ifs and then I first compare it to 12.
Yep, so we say equals if that number is greater than 12, then we say right? not bigger, let's just do this in bigger. If it's not, then we want to check the next one, right? So the next one would be if 10 is greater than 9. Oh, that's actually going to be, if that's true, that is bigger, right? Bigger. And if it's not, then we can say, okay, check the next one. If 10 is greater than 20.
All these three conditions will get evaluated.
Correct. So let's go through them. Now, the question is, if that one's not, so let's just make sure we get these right. So let's do this bigger 12, just so we know which one's firing. This one's bigger 9, and this one was bigger 20. Now, the question is, what if it's not? Now, if it's not, you can do nothing, right? So we can do nothing. We can just say, now we have to close that one off. You can see it on flash. Watch here. This is about to flash. And this one's about to flash. Right, so now we know we've got 3 of those to close them out. So it's fired bigger 9 because 10 is not bigger than 12, but 10 is bigger than 9, right? So let's see how, and we go to our formula and let's evaluate. So we'll step through it. So evaluate, 10 greater than 22 is false. So it doesn't do the first thing. That's NA, so it skips over it. Now it says, is F10 greater than that? True. It's true. So then say that. And then the rest gets excluded.
Yeah, actually that's my whole point. The thing is that I want to evaluate all these 3 ifs without having to have a true or a false condition. If the first one if gets true or false,
yeah.
You know, I don't want the formula to skip the rest of the ifs. I want all the ifs to be evaluated at the same time. Like if like that's the switch statement.
Yeah. I do. Let me take it on notice.
Yeah.
I'll come back to you. And I'll email it.
You get work on it.
Yeah.
Is
You know?
there a case function to do that?
The case function.
There's a case for in VBA there is, but not in.
Exactly like the case one.
There's not in VBA, but not in as a function. Yeah.
Yeah, just like
There's choose. So actually, choose is probably better for you now that I think of it. So there is a function called choose. Which will actually choose based on the value of the index, return something back to you. So it will return you the 9th or the 5th or the 14th type of thing based on that. So you might have to do it in 2 steps. Yeah. All right. Moving on. Dates. So here is a one for the ones on the phone. Here's a trivia question for you. Dates are just a serial number. Okay, and you sometimes see that if I type in, I don't know, let's say my birthday, 14/8/70. That's a right. That's general. That's a date. Let's type it in here. Oh, not 14. Right. So I was born there. You go. I was born on a Friday. If I turn that into a number, it comes up with a number. And often you see that if you copy them over. The question is, what does that number represent? Here's the number.
Oh, isn't it the number that is the 1st of January 1900?
1900, correct. Yeah. So number 1 is actually there. So, and the dot is the fraction of a day. Okay? So if you're really good with your maths, you'd know that today was that many days. Okay? So you can change the format of that. here you've seen the short version and the long version, but if you don't like any of those, you can go to date and you can choose some predefined ones. And if you're really special, you can go and create your own. So the syntax that it uses is D for day, M for month, and Y for year. And you can do it in any combinations thereof. So D is 20, 3 Ds is the short version of the day, 4 Ds is the long version of the day. So you could do, yeah. The difference between those two doesn't make any sense on the 20th, but on the 9th, it would drop the 0 or put a 0 in, okay? Similarly, month, yep. You can see it there. And year doesn't make much difference between two of them, okay? Similarly, hours. So hours, minutes, seconds, excuse me, right? So you can do any combinations thereof, which is what we've done here. You can even say, as we've done in here, cancel there, you can concatenate today is with the date, right? So you can concatenate the two. Okay, couple of date functions. Now gives you the time and day. Today just gives you the date. Okay. Year gives you the year fraction of a date. Month gives you the month fraction of a date, and day gives you the day function of the date. So if I want to know what next year is, I can simply say year today plus 1. That gives me next year. If year plus 1 gives me next year, year plus 0 gives me this year, and year minus 1 gives me last year. Okay? So if that makes sense, then you could say month plus 1 gives me next month, and day plus 1 gives me the next day, right? So if that all makes sense, once you've got your year and your month and your day, you can actually build it back up again with a function called date, which basically takes the year, the month, and the day. All right? If I want to know what the beginning of next month is, I could say date today. Year of today. The month of today. Now, if I want to know the first of the month, first of the month is always 1. Very good. Oops, year, month, I missed a parenthesis, days. This is why sometimes screw up. So that's the beginning of this month, right? So the beginning of next month, I could do +1. And if I wanted to know the end of the month, we can do 0. And that gives you the end of the month. Okay? So helpful. And then, you know, because often you say, well, what day is it? You can do long day and you can see it's going to be Friday. Okay? So there's some formulas that you can use. Time, you can do similarly. You can format time, like I've done up here. And you can just see that's hour and minutes. So that's 8 and 9. And if you do that, that minus that gives you that. If you do it in fractions, it gives you that, right? So often it's more helpful there. Here is a run sheet example. So I normally code my sheets. Greys are formulas, and another color is my entry cells, right? So that you can type in things. So here's a useful one for agendas. If you've got a start time at 11 o'clock and the first thing, which is welcome to country and whatever else, goes for 5 minutes, then the finish time, just like we did with date, you can do with time. So hour, minute, plus this many minutes. So I've done the hour of this, the minutes of this, plus this many minutes, and the seconds, and that gives me that. Now I go over to here and I simply point to that, and I've copied my formula down, and you'll see, because it's intelligent, it actually knows to flip it over to the next hour.
What if I just add a numerical value into a time? So it should be the same value. Like, let's say, for example, time. This is the numerical value.
This is minutes taken. Yeah.
Yes, these are the numerical values. They are not formatted as time.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. A couple of other formulas useful for dates. So over here, I've created a range. We call it holidays because we know how to do name ranges now. Yeah. So date difference is the difference between two dates. So that to that is a week. That to that is also a week. The net working days, however, allows you to calculate Sundays. So let's just make this simple. Today is the 20th of March, so 2017. Let's add in 7 days, 27, 3, 17. We have, oops, let's make it this Sunday. Right, we have 5 working days between Monday and Sunday. If, however,
So how do we calculate that?
the net working days takes out Saturdays and Sundays,
Oh, I see.
essentially, yeah, which is useful. If we decide that we're going to have a special Sabre holiday, and that special Sabre holiday is going to be on the 20th, first, it's going to be tomorrow, just for fun. You can see it's now gone down to 4 because it's incorporated holidays. So useful for working days, especially for Flash Day, Flash Working Day 5 and that sort of stuff. They can all be helpful for that. And down below, I've given a couple more examples. So now the thing with Excel is that you can do things 5 different ways. There's never a right way. There's sometimes a more efficient way, but there's never a right way. So here's a couple of formulas that I've left for you to try and learn through and work out how to get through the next working day. So you can see here, it's worked out if it's a Sunday, the next working day is a Monday. If it's a Saturday, the next working day is a Monday. Okay. You kind of understand why do we spend time doing these sort of breaking the dates down and that sort of stuff. So we're very inclusive, right? We don't want to miss anybody. Particularly, we don't want to miss Birthday Club Day, right? So it's very important. So here's some people. Here are their birthdays. If we were to simply sort their birthdays based on their birthday, we come up to here and we could say custom sort. Let's sort by their birthday. That would give us the oldest to the youngest, but that wouldn't help us with birthday club because this is in September, and if we wait till September, we're going to miss the person in May. Okay, so we strip out their month, and all of a sudden we can now sort by their month. And then we get it in month order, irrespective of their days. And now, because we want to make sure that we actually send them a personalized birthday on their day, we can rebuild it based on that. And here we strip out the years because we don't want to embarrass people how old they are. Right? So there's an example about when you want to do it. And that's if you want to know how old they are, the difference from today, just for the year. Okay? Useful? Yeah? You don't use all these all the time, but you use them some of the time. And I can tell you, I haven't done this course for a little while. At the beginning of the year, I pulled out my Excel 201. I went, how the hell did you do that again? And I had to pull out actually one of these ones in here, these complex, because I knew I'd done it before, but I couldn't remember how to do it. So, all right, moving on. Text, another nemesis of people in Excel. For some odd reason, it kind of never quite works the right way. Often happens when you deal with a whole lot of data and you've got to strip out bits and pieces from those cells, right? So you've got a concatenated cell, like a staff number and I don't know, and a state or something, and you just need the state. So here's some string functions that might be useful to you. Left. Left takes a piece of text and the number of characters from the left. So if I do left of A, B, C, D, E, F, or E for 3 characters, I get A, B, C, because I'm starting at the left, yeah? I'm going 1, 2, 3. Those 3 characters is left there, okay? Right is the same string, but coming from the right. Now, importantly, it just takes, it's literally going this way. 1, 2, 3. And then pasting that in. It doesn't transpose them, E, D, C, which, yeah, it doesn't do that. Okay. Trim. Trim gets rid of spaces before and after. It does not take spaces out of the middle. Okay. It just takes it from the front and the back. Concatenate is the show-off version of the ampersand. Show off because if you can spell concatenate right each time, you deserve to get it right. Otherwise, just use ampersand. Okay, does the same thing. Mid does the same thing as left, but it starts from a position into the so it's the middle. Okay, but it starts from the left. So mid, my string, starting at position 2, is the equivalent of saying skip A, start number 2, go for 3 characters, 1, 2, 3, yep, and bring up those 3 characters. Correct. If I change the last character to 2, it's only going to bring up 2 characters. As in, it starts from the left, counting from the left, right, as opposed to the right. So it's not like right, it's going to go just for starting, it always starts from the left position, counting from the left. So here, if I go...
Mid is a bit confusing.
Yeah, so if I start position 4 for 1, I'm starting position here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Starting that position for 1 character. Yep. Find finds a particular string within a string and tells you what position it is. So find C starting from position 1. It's not there, it's not there. Here it is, my 3rd position.
Find that starting from position 4 to come back forward.
It comes back with that error, correct. Yep. And if I said position 3, it would still come 3, but if I had 2 of them in there, and I started from position 1, it would return 3, and if I started from position 4, it will return 6. So if you want to skip, yeah, the first instance it finds. Find is case sensitive. Search is the same thing, but not. Okay. And len is the shortened version for length, and it tells you how long it is. Now, why would you want to know any of these? Here's my practical example. When I was running payroll with my 45,000 records, we did an upgrade for PeopleSoft. And in the upgrade, they changed around the way the structure was. And we had a list with everybody's first name, space surname, and they wanted a list of everybody's surname, comma, first name. So we went, how are we going to convert all of these people's first name space surnames into surname space first name? And then we said, we could come up with a formula for that. And this is the formula that I'm sure you all came up with. Now it looks scary, right? But we're going to break it down and show you how simple it is. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is, what is the construct, right? The construct is you take the surname. How do I find the surname? There's a space.
Yeah, except for
nuance.
Yeah.
Okay, but we know the surname starts with a space, so that's important, right? And we know we need to put in a comma, and we need to grab the first name. So how do we find the surname? We know the space, right? How do we find the space?
There are 2 spaces.
We say find the space in our string. And so it's gone and said it's in the 4th position. Now, just to show you that it really works, let's make this, I don't know who is famous. His surname starts in position 7. Okay? So, we know that we're going to have to start in the 7th position to get the surname. The question is, how long are we going to go for? For how many characters? So, if we start in position 7, how many characters are we going to go for? How are we going to find the length of the surname? Yeah. So, how big's the whole name? The whole name's 14 characters long. So the length of the surname is the whole length minus where the space is. Yeah? So now we know where's the space. We know how long the surname is. So we can just start at the right and go for 7 characters. Yeah? And we grab the surname. Now we know where the first name is because that starts at the left. We know how long to go for? Where the space is. We go to 7 characters. So now we've got the surname and the first name, and all we then need to do is concatenate the 2 with a comma. So that's what it looks like broken down. Here are all the functions that we've used. It's now just a case of putting it in order. So let's have a look. The right, we're going to go to the right of George Clooney for the length of George Clooney, which is 7, minus find the space. We find the space and it gave us a position 7, which we found out. So now we're going to go right for 7, and we get Clooney, ampersand, comma, and we go left of George Clooney, find the space in George Clooney, it's in position 7, so we're going to go for 7 characters. And we get George Clooney.
One tricky bit is data tends to be not that perfect and get rid of all the extra spaces.
How do you get rid of all the extra spaces?
Yeah, because sometimes you space twice, not always, right?
Correct. So we figured
80/20.
80-20 rule, they got rid of the rest of them. You could do a search and replace. So what I often do when I get crappy data like that is the first thing I know, I don't want double spaces. So I do, correct. So Excel's your friend again. Control H is for find and replace. Double space, one space, replace all. We've got, there we go, we've got rid of some of those. Now it's made it better for us.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Make sense?
It's just the funny surnames.
Yep.
No,
All good? Any questions? Excellent. So there'll be no excuses for you not to be able to do your homework. Here's another example. So this, if anyone recognises, is that we get a GL extract out of the GL, right? In department. There's a rule. The rule is if there is a 0-0, it's actually what we call the BSBs in the branches. If it's a 0-1, then it's a department. So your challenge is if the first 2 digits, notice it's somewhere in the middle, somewhere in the middle, mid, yes. If the first 2 digits are 0-1, then prefix should be CBA, and the last 4 digits, like that. Otherwise, it should be that. So here's a couple of hints. There's a couple of if statements in there, right? So you're using your ifs, you're using your mids, you're using your concatenations, and you should have fun.
These positions are fixed or
Fixed, they're fixed.
so 0, 0 and 0, 1 will be
In the same position. Correct. Okay? I'll email these through to you. Actually, if everyone doesn't mind after this, just pinging me your email address, because I had a whole stack of people coming along, but some are coming to the next session, so I don't want to give them the homework beforehand, right? So they don't know which one's in this session. So far, so good? Do we need to all stand up for a second, stretch? I do. Another 20 minutes or so to go. Oh, there's a question from the floor. Oh, thanks, Jim. Thanks, guys. Checking in, am I going at the right pace? All good? Excellent. Are you learning something? Good. Will you recommend me to your friends?
yeah, no, it's often we won't use it, and we sort of hack it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Excellent. All right. The ominous, scary VLOOKUP. I don't know why, but it scares people. So let's nail the beast. VLOOKUP. Firstly, there's a couple of tricks to it. Actually, if you don't mind. VLOOKUP essentially is that typical lookup. As I said here, it searches the value in the leftmost column of the table array. That's important. And returns the value in the same row based on the index number. Okay, as simple as that, he says. So, if your table array is there, it's going to search the left-hand column. If your table array is there, it's going to search the left-hand column. If your table array is there, you're not going to be looking up invoice number, right? So make sure your table array is right. If your table array is there, you can't go looking up project with VLOOKUP. I'll show you another way to do that, because you always wanted to know. You can, and often people do, create little helper columns and say this equals that. And here's a couple of tricks I didn't show you before. We know now that you could do a Control D for down, right? Showed you that one before. You can also do, you can see here the little dot. I don't know if I can make it any bigger. Here we go. See how it's got a little dot in the corner there? See how my pointer goes from that to a cross? If I double click in the cross, then it fills down that series. Okay? So that's another trick. It will go until an adjacent column is blank, in case you wanted to know. Right, so if that was, sorry, that was there, that won't go to there, right, because it's found a blank. Okay, let me just make sure there's no questions here. That ball name is cool, thank you. Right, so that's one way to get around that whole left-hand column, and then your table array changes, right? So now your table array will be here, for argument's sake. So that's one quick way of getting around it. I'll show you a better way later on. So here's my table array. I'm going to look up a value and return a column. So to find the project number for invoice number 17167, my formula is VLOOKUP D22, my table array A12 to F18, just because I'm lazy, return 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And the answer is M222. All good? Any problems? Someone online, is there a problem with that?
Is it 167 or 166?
Ah, well done. Oh, lots of people typing. Give me a second. Correct. The invoice that it selected was 166 because it actually couldn't find 167 and it found the closest to, but no greater than.
Oh, so that's why I didn't go to 167.
So it finds the closest to, not greater than. Now, that is sometimes good. Great for the guys at the Bureau of Meteorology, because when they want to find the last time we had 22.4 degrees and we didn't have it, they can say, well, the last time we had 22.3 was in 1924, right? But not very good if you're going to pay someone the wrong invoice amount. So here in yellow, it says, tip, get into the habit of using false. Only use true if you're certain you want an approximate match. So if I was to say, comma, false, which is exact match, return an error. Which at least is a good thing to show that you've actually got a problem with your data set, right? Okay, if you don't put in false, inevitably you will get it wrong, because there's not many times you want an approximate value. You need to think about that, right? Okay? By default, unfortunately, it's true, yes. Okay, so that's that one. So here is to find the project name. Again, with VLOOKUP. Ah, see how I said we build things up? Now we're using the name range called invoices, which is my range, right? So now all of a sudden this makes a bit more sense, right? So now look up this value in invoices. We go to column 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if our eyes are as good as their HP solution, yep, that's how it works. If the invoice doesn't exist, you get the NA, which is what we did there.
Hang on, sorry.
Yep.
Why is the VLOOKUP D23?
Here's D23.
Oh, I see. Oh, you're looking at the value.
Yeah, they're looking at the value. Yep, looking at that value in that table, returning row 5.
Yeah.
Yep. If you've got an error like this and you don't want to show that, you might want to show just a 0. So here we can use the function called ifError, which says if the next thing is an error, put a 0. Okay, which is a very short version of saying if NA is value blah blah blah, it just knows inbuilt by default to 0, right? Which is what I've done up here. Okay, make sense? Good, Geo. Right here. Here is another way. Actually, I'm gonna wait till we get into that. I'll come back to that. Remind me to come back. HLOOKUP. V is for vertical, H is for horizontal. Never used it before. I'm not surprised. I've been using Excel for, I don't know, almost probably 20 years now. I cannot think of an example when you'd ever use HLOOKUP. It's just anything more than 3 or 4 rows, 3 or 4 columns, you normally turn into rows. And so I use vertical. But it does exactly the same thing. So it does here we go. So an HLOOKUP for this going across there in the second, return the second row. So February should return that number there, which is 126, which is what it has. The third one is it's going to return the value. Okay? So literally just pivots it. Double lookup. So, always looks up the first. Correct. Correct. Double lookups. So, I know I normally get in trouble when I give this example, but one of my very first jobs was actually working in a fashion company for some designers, and I was privileged enough to work in a company where I worked with the designers, and then we went across to Istanbul where they did the manufacturing, and then I went to Düsseldorf where they did the warehousing, so I got to see it all. So it was pretty cool. And then I went and spent a month with admin, and there they did the pricing. And the thing I couldn't work out was, for a particular model size jeans that we did, irrespective of the size, we'd sell it for the same price. I kept on saying, surely a size 18 costs us more than a size 6. Surely we should sell it differently. And I was told that's not very good for retail purposes, but we did need to account for it in costs. So, you don't want to piss off a size 18 person and charge them more. So, how, however, do I find out the various costs for my models and my sizes? So, I could do a VLOOKUP, go down here, and return a particular thing, but I also need to know which column it is. So here's when you can use match and index. So let me show you how it's working. If I change this to be a model A, and I change this to be size, I get a price of 189. What's going on here? What's going on here? Put the 40 in the right spot. A 12, yep. A 10, C 10. All right. The bouncing ball, I'll show you in a minute as well. So, match. Match searches for a value in an array and returns its relative position. Okay, so match B9, which is a C, in our range of A4 to A7. 1, 2, 3. Yep. If I go to size and I go match one, 2, and it returns 2. Okay? Yep. So F2, match my 10 in my range, which I've highlighted, so it doesn't have to be a thing, it can just be a single row. I've returned the second row, second position. Yeah? All it's basically saying, a bit like find. It's got find for text, match for number. Yep, gives you a position. So now that I've got my two positions, position of the value in the range. Yep. So it doesn't, yep. Then I can build it, I can wrap it around what I call an index. An index basically says within an array, within my array price table, so here's the blue bit, go to my column and my row. So I've evaluated that as being 3, and I've evaluated that being 2, so go to down there. So it's a simpler way of moving around without having to know exactly, and without having to have the column in the left-hand side. Let me give you an example. If I had my lookup here instead, I could now make this instead of A there, I could have it here, and I still get the position 3, yeah, and it works. So with that in mind, if I go back to my VLOOKUPs, I can do an index of my invoices, which is my table here, and if I was looking up, what was I trying to find? Oh, here we go. So here was my, instead of finding, example was, yeah. So here's my example. I wanted to find the project name with the invoice over here, my match here within this invoice range. I get a position and I index it across this table, and I get column 5, which is the hardware solutions, and that's my answer. Now if I wanted to do the reverse lookup, I could now say find hardware solutions in this range across this table and return the first column, which is my invoice number. So really what it lets you do is do a VLOOKUP without having to use the left-hand column. Correct. Yep. And it makes perfect sense once you've learned how to do VLOOKUPs properly. All right. In terms of the bouncing ball, I know you've all been asking, how did I make it move around? We do that with conditional formatting. So my conditional format, which you get to from saying home, conditional format, is a simple rule. If the cell value is equal to my answer, then make it red. And I apply that to my whole table. Make sense? Here's some more conditional formatting that might be useful. If you're going to create something like a heat map, here's a simple value. If the value is less than 150, make it green. If it's between 150 and 250, make it orange. If it's greater than 250, make it red. What does it look like? Exactly that. So, conditional formats, you can do all of these, or you can do more rules. In this case, I've created those ones there. So only cells that are greater than, make them red. Now, the only thing with these ones is you need to be careful in which order you put them, because generally it should stop when it's true. So if you had it the other way around, it would never get to your reds potentially. Yeah. Similarly, this is what I actually use quite a bit for my to-do lists. So if it's overdue, which is if it's less than today, it's overdue, make it red. If you've got 7 more days to go, then you're amber, and if you're greater than 7 days, you're green. Okay. And similarly, if you use your if statements, yeah, if it's less than today, then you're overdue. If it's not, then if it's got 7 more days, due this week, otherwise, okay.
Can I use my if statement in function format?
Yes.
Not column,
Yep.
inside the-
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is most of the material I was going to get through. There's a couple more things that you can do. I've added in the back here for calculating next working days. As I said, there's different ways. I mentioned choose before. So there's a choose example. There's no right way. That's not true. There is a right way in Excel because sometimes functions are more efficient than other functions, but until you're getting to mega spreadsheets, you know, it's microseconds. A little bit more information on the wizard function, a little bit more information on auditing, date functions, absolute versus relative referencing, which we spoke about before. Some more text functions for you to play with, and that's it. So, any questions